We're good. I now call this meeting of the Student Senate to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to begin our Student Senate meeting taking place on Thursday, February 6, 2024, with a land acknowledgement. We recognize that Kansas State University, as the first land-grant institution, stands on the ancestral lands of the Kaw people. Our state of Kansas is home to 4 federally recognized Native nations, the Iowa, Kickapoo, Prairie Band, Potawatomi, and Sac and Fox. We must remember that the land serving as the foundation for this institution was, and still is, stolen land acquired by white settlers. We pledge our commitment to creating decolonized spaces at the university while advocating for the support and future success of Indigenous faculty, staff, and students at K-State. With that, Speaker Pro Tem Heseltine will take it away with our first roll call.
Alvarez. Here. Bailey.
Here.
Black.
Here.
Blood.
Here.
Bolton. Brugan. Byers.
Here.
Koch.
Here.
Cox. Edinger.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
George.
Here.
Kiefer.
Here.
Glanville.
Here.
Glasscock.
Here.
Griffith.
Here.
Hassan Shakib. Holmes.
Here.
Holzmeister. Islam. Jonak. Carton.
Here.
Keene.
Here.
Kermer.
Here.
Lee. Lilly.
Here.
McCulloch.
Here.
Maltz. Morris.
Here.
Nagai Velasquez.
Here.
Otto.
Here.
Owen.
Here.
Palenko.
Here.
Prey.
Here.
Robbie.
Here.
Rafferty.
Here.
Richenberg.
Here.
Ramirez.
Here.
Shahasavari.
Here.
Shirky.
Here.
Strunk. Sushanik.
Here.
Uphouse.
Here.
Weaver. Zacco.
Here.
My turn. Chair Lee.
Never mind.
Okay. Excellent. With that, we will now go into first open period, so if you'll close your laptop screens. Tonight, our first open speaker is Sarah Barr with Student Legal Services.
A couple of things before I get started. First of all, I'm not with Student Legal Services. I am Student Legal Services. Thanks to the funding of SGA, you support one lawyer for the student body. Not going to name names, but there's another university in Kansas that has 5. So I don't know whether they're worse, their student body's worse, or I'm just that great. But we're gonna go with I'm just that great. The other thing I want to say, and I know I don't have much time, but I listened to the land grant statement, and I'm thinking about what's going on in our country. I don't have many more tomorrows, all right? It's in your hands. And frankly, I'm terrified. So you all have to step up and help this country be what it can be, which is not what's happening right now. Don't give lip service to this. Thank you, Indians, for Native Americans, indigenous people, for the land, and then close your eyes to the crazy bullshit that is going on in Washington, D.C. I'm just telling you, I took my stand in the mid-70s, and it wasn't easy then. Y'all have to take your stand now. I'm not gonna be around to do it. So you guys have to do it. And the reason that you're hearing this now from me is this is my last student government meeting. I'm out June 6th. I'm retired. So this is my last hurrah. So I gotta say it while I can, and before somebody in Anderson Hall hears that I said it, and say, maybe you ought not to. So anyway, there we go. All right, I'm supposed to talk about Fake Patty's Day, the greatest fake holiday on the face of the earth. I have said for 25 years, my last Fake Patty's Day, I was going to be there, but I'm not. So I am going to be there next year, where I don't have business cards to hand out, and where I won't have a supervisor to meet with on Monday. So Fake Patty's Day, you can't drink all day if you don't start in the mornings, so keep that in mind. Can I point to somebody to change life? Woo, okay, all right. For the last several years, there have not been out-of-town law enforcement officers in town to help. This year there are. So that means that the fines are going to be a little bit higher. There's going to be law enforcement presence that doesn't have the tolerance and understanding that the Riley County Police Department does. So tickets that are issued by state agency, alcohol beverage control, Kansas Highway Patrol, those tickets will have to appear in district court. Anything written by RCPD or another local law enforcement agency will appear in city court. All that means is that the fines are gonna be different, the diversion terms are gonna be different. Don't panic. Your turn. Okay, I'm not gonna go over these, but if a cop wants to chat, you have a right to remain silent, use it. Bike cops are going around to residents in the big party zone of Fake Patty's Day, knocking on doors and saying, hey, listen, we just want to have the name of everybody who lives here, in case there's a problem. We know who to contact. What that means in plain English is they want your name and the contact information so that when something goes off the rails, they can call you and write you a ticket. So do not give that information. The police are not knocking on your door because they are there to help. They're just not. They're wanting information so that if there's a party at that house and the people say, oh, we don't know who lives here, they can say, oh, as a matter of fact, we know who lives here. All right? So don't give that information. Never run. Don't consent to searches. If a cop wants to search your backpack, or you just say, I don't consent to searches. All right? And if they search anyway, then we'll figure that out later. All right, if you do get a ticket, first of all, if you do get a ticket, sign it. All that says is that you'll appear in court or that you'll take care of it. It's not an admission of anything. If you don't sign it, they arrest you. And then you go to jail, then you've got to bond out, and then, it's a thing. And you don't need a thing. You just sign the ticket. If you do get a ticket, don't get legal advice from, your girlfriend's cousin who used to date somebody who drove by Washburn Law School, all right? I mean, get advice from a real lawyer. It doesn't have to be me, but it should be someone in Manhattan, because your Johnson County lawyer is going to say, oh, well, this is how it works, and they do not know, because it's different in Manhattan. All right, so talk to somebody here. And your parents are going to be pissed off, and if you don't have to call them until you've talked to a lawyer, that's okay, because then when you talk to them, you can say, I figured this out, this is what it's going to be. So, all right, so minor in possession of alcohol. If you get one, minor in possession, minor in consumption are the same thing. The ordinance says you cannot possess or consume or attempt to possess or consume alcohol or cereal malt beverage. If you've not had a prior one, at any time in your life, anywhere, anytime, whether it was a diversion or a conviction, it's gonna cost you $555. $400 is the diversion fee, and $155 is the court cost. That's due at signing, not at your court date, but at a different signing. And it's for 6 months. If you're in Aggieville when you get it, you're banned from Aggieville for 6 months. So keep that in mind. If you're convicted, it's going to cost you $755, and you also lose your driver's license for 30 days. So be very careful about saying, I'm going to take this to trial on principle, because principle can cost you. Unlawful use of a driver's license. If you guys have your fake driver's license, the 3 for $90 or whatever that you got online. When I started this job, back in the olden days, you guys weren't even born yet, everybody who had a fake driver's license said, and I'm not kidding, I got it from a guy at KU who lives in one of the dorms. Always. Didn't know which dorm, but for, I bet, 6 or 7 years, I got it from a guy at KU who lives in one of the dorms. Dude, he was making money, hand over fist. All right, so you can get a diversion for unlawful use of a driver's license. Don't carry your fake behind your real one, so that when you pull out your real one, let's say, I don't know, you get a speeding ticket or something, and your fake one is there. Don't do that. Don't store it in the same slot where you store your real one, so that when you think you're handing your real one and you hand your fake one, don't do that. So if you're gonna be stupid enough to have a fake, keep them in separate places. It's sort of like having, you know, 2 persons of interest. Those 2 persons of interest should never meet, okay? This is not a joke. I was walking through the sheriff's office on my way to see a client when I lived in Liberal. I looked over, and one of the clerks had an 8x10 color framed photo of my husband on her desk. So see, when the worlds collide, bad shit happens. I'm just saying, fake IDs, you know, fake and real, keep them separate. All right, so you don't want to be convicted of having a fake ID. That is an honesty, a crime, a violation of honesty or a crime of honesty. And you don't need that when you're trying to explain to Central School in Dodge City why you want to teach kindergarten there. Maximum fine is $1,000. Maximum jail time is 6 months. You will do some jail unless you can get a diversion, which means you've not had any priors. If you have a fake driver's license and an MIP, both of those can be diverted. Furnishing, again, there's a diversion. You can get a diversion for it. Conviction's likely the same penalty. If you're hosting a party, diversion is possible but not likely on fake Patty's Day. The minimum fine is $1,000. So you might want to take up a collection maybe after the fact. Don't take up a collection during the party, because then it's an open bar and oh boy. Okay, open container in public. If you have an open container and you're on a sidewalk, an alley, a street with a cup, a can, a bottle with the lid off, that's an open container. So just pay it. It's a violation of the city ordinance. It's not reported anywhere. It doesn't go on any criminal record. Just pay it. $148 and it's dismissed. So don't even worry about that. And the area between the street and the sidewalk is public. So walking from your house to your neighbor's house, that's once you leave your yard, that the cops will say that when you got into somebody else's yard, that became
Speaker's time has expired.
Senator Shirkey.
I move to extend the speaker's time by 4 minutes.
oh shit.
That is out of order.
Right.
Yeah, do it again.
I move to suspend the rules and extend the speaker's time by 4 minutes.
Second.
Is there an objection? speaker's time is extended.
All right, let's go. Okay, public urination. It is not a sex crime. That movie Horrible Bosses, that's just a joke. So, that again, that is a violation of a city ordinance. Just pay it. Don't worry about it being a sex crime. It's not reported anywhere. I will say, just to, sort of throw the gauntlet out there, I have not in 23 years ever had a woman charged with a public urination. So, there you go. Get after it, ladies. Okay, noise violation. You can go online and read the noise ordinance. These are not diverted. The minimum fine is $100. Court costs are $155. And the line seems to be if they can hear the music past your property line. So that would be, really easy. So just be aware. And almost all contact with law enforcement is, we have a noise violation. Oh, look, there's a party. So beware of the noise. Obstruction. If a cop comes up to you and wants to talk to you, you do not walk away. You do not do anything that prevents him from doing his job other than invoking your right to remain silent. If you have an obstruction or a resisting charge, there was a KU student who was here last weekend who had to get carried to the substation because she was not going to play. And the attorney at KU said, well, that's not obstruction. And I said, well, in Manhattan it is, so FAFO, right? Okay, so you need to cooperate. You need to give your correct date of birth. Don't run. And if there's a situation that doesn't involve you, don't participate. Oh, hey, look at this. I just want to say one thing, because this is my last hurrah. The black and white picture is my favorite picture of my life. The old guy on the left is my grandpa Judge. He was Chief Justice of the Kansas Supreme Court. Before that, he was Attorney General of Kansas. He fought the KKK and was able to take away their charter in the state of Kansas. So I come from good stock. I'm handing it off now, okay, because I'm getting old. So that was my grandpa. My dad was a judge within the Kansas legislature, was an attorney. The boy in the front teaches at University of Denver School of Law. He's also an attorney. And then the one that looks like a little homeless urchin, that's me. So we've got 3 generations of Kansas lawyers in that picture. I'm sure if the Kansas Bar Association had seen that picture, they would have said, "Oh, we gotta break this pattern at some point." So, all right. So thanks for the support over 23 years. I appreciate it. I'm sure that I'll be turning you over to good hands. I don't know who that will be, but you guys got to stand up and do the right thing. You can't just sit and watch this shit happen. All right? You've got to take a stand. You've got to look out for the people, the disenfranchised among you. There might not be many disenfranchised people in Student Senate at K-State, but they're here. They're around. So, all right, thanks. Do I ask for questions?
Yeah, are there any questions? Oh.
Are there any questions? Because I was fighting the clock.
Caucus Leader Black.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. What are some other things that Student Legal Services helps students with besides MIPs?
Landlord-tenant stuff. I do a lot of name changes. I have people that come in because a parent or grandparent died. They've got questions about probate. I'm just trying to think of people that I saw today. The people whose cars have been hit. They've been in an accident and they need help with the insurance company. People who have problems with their health insurance companies, really just a lot of things. And I have also noticed that frequently I have students who just want to talk to a grown-up. who just want to talk to an adult that's not a advisor, that's not associated with the university. Well, I'm associated with the university, but we have attorney-client privilege, so I don't report to anybody, hey, guess who I saw? Nope, that doesn't happen. So just really, it's the most comprehensive legal practice I've ever been in, which is kind of fun.
Are there any other questions? Chair Sushanik.
What if I know someone who already gave their name and phone number to the police? Do I have any?
No,
advice?
that's
What do I tell
fine.
them?
I mean, you can't unring the bell. And that's okay. What they're doing is completely legal. But it seems like students very often get one side. And, I'm gonna do what the police tell me to do because, they're here to help. And in this particular case, that's not, they're doing it for their benefit. They're not doing it for your benefit. But it's not a big deal. Just tell them, be careful, don't have a party and, have 900 people in your yard.
Okay, keep it to 200.
It was just 2?
Yeah, 200.
Okay. Well, probably by the time the police report gets written, it'll be 900.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah.
Do you have like specific office hours that you just show up, or do we have like schedule a meeting?
You schedule an appointment to meet with me. I'm in the old Office of Student Life, which is now the Office of Student Support and Accountability, which I had one more year, and they changed the acronym of my office. And really, can I be expected to learn a new acronym? I think not. But a couple of years ago, the Office of Student Life needed my office for a new dean. And so I work completely remotely from my home office in Wamego. So you just call the Office of Student Support and Accountability, and then we just schedule a Zoom. So I do all my stuff by Zoom, unless I'm given a presentation. So.
Any other questions?
Thank you all very much. Go and do good, all right?
Are there any other first open period speakers tonight? Okay, seeing none, we will go into the approval of the minutes. The minutes were passed out yesterday with the agenda and legislation tracking information. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Senator Otto.
I move to approve the minutes. Second.
Is there an objection? The minutes will stand approved, and with that, we'll go into announcements. 1, proxies. If you're going to be absent from a Student Senate meeting, please fill out this link, even if you aren't sure if your absence will be excused. 2, if you'll be physically absent from Student Senate but would still like to attend via Zoom, fill out the Student Senator Zoom request form, and Speaker Cuesta will review requests based on the Student Senate attendance policy. Please submit requests here. 3, want to give props to someone in Student Senate, fill out the Senate shout-out form, and Speaker Pro Tem Heseltine will read them at the end of our meeting. Fill out your shout-outs here. 4 is the upcoming events calendar, and the quote of the week is "The essence of good government is trust" by Kathleen Sebelius. With that, we will now go into approval of appointments. Is there a motion to consider Resolution 58? Senator Shirkey.
I move to consider Resolution 58.
Second.
If the author will please come forward. Joseph, do you want me to read it, or? Okay.
I'm coughing a bunch, so if you wouldn't mind, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, Resolution 58, approval of new student senator, authors Joseph Lilly, sponsors Carson S. Cuesta. Whereas there are currently 4 vacancies for the position of student senator for the Carl R. Ice College of Education, and whereas Kaylin Phillips has been nominated by the Carl R. Ice College of Engineering in their capacity to fill the vacancy, be it resolved that Section 1, the following individual be approved as a student senator for the Carl R. Ice College of Education, Kaylin, no. Carl R. Rice College of Engineering, Kaylin Phillips. Are there any questions? Yeah, Senator Shirkey.
Is it 4 or is it 3? I just wanted the author to clarify, because I thought the last appointment to engineering had 4. I don't know if there's a correction for that.
I think
It
we've
was
had
4 last time, and then we approved someone, which now makes it 3.
Okay. Are there any further questions or corrections for the author? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 58? Senator Glasscock.
I move to approve resolution 58 unanimously.
Second.
Is there an objection? The resolution will stand approved. And I don't believe Kaylin is here tonight, so we will move on to committee reports. Are there any committee chairs who would like to give a report? Chair Koch.
Hey guys, just wanted to let you know that Resolution 52, which was a recommendation or a resolution to support current sustainability practices, was tabled indefinitely in our committee at the author's request. And there may be more legislation coming out after some meetings with facilities, but as of right now, we're just kind of putting a pause on that. So any questions?
Okay, seeing none, thank you. Are there any further, oh, Chair Lee.
Brian, I sent you something on the I just emailed you something.
Talk about last minute.
Yeah, my bad. Forgot. Hope you can help it. Okay. Wow, look at this. Isn't this great? Okay, so again, going on my soapbox about donations for citations. So I've been working with Adelaide Easter, our director of basic needs, and kind of coordinating, again, to remind everyone, when we passed that resolution last semester, that we said that we would pick up stuff. And so basically, kind of the rough system that we've established so far is that each branch, I think it's every 2 weeks or so, we'll just get two volunteers to go to the parking garage, go pick up the donations and bring it to Cat's Cupboard. You might be asking, why do I need to go pick it up? Why is it at the parking garage and not at Cat's Cupboard already? It's because the parking garage is measuring basically everything that's coming in. They're taking account for, so they can have numbers for us by the end of the year to see where we're at. So we'll send this out at some point, just to know that. So me and Natalie are gonna go out this week just to go, test the waters a little bit. But as you see here, these are kind of the pickup dates. So if you guys are interested in volunteering, it's gonna take like maybe 30 minutes of your day at most. Please feel free to think about it.
Senator Shirkey.
Do you have a listed time of day, or will you just directly contact anyone who goes on the spreadsheet?
Literally, it's whenever you're free. Whatever works best for you. I know everyone got busy schedules, so whenever you can pick it up, just go pick it up. Yeah.
Are there any further questions? Senator Glanville.
What's up?
Okay, so I have a question on the flyer because I can't remember off the top of my head. Does it say to bring those to Cat's Cupboard first or the parking garage? Because we've had multiple students who have come into the parking garage say that they were told to go take them to Cat's Cupboard first, and then they have to come to the parking garage. I can't remember off the top of my head if it says either or, but just clarification for the student body.
Yeah, well, I don't know who's spreading that disinformation. Don't say that. You drop it off at the garage because the garage takes it in. It's on the flyer. Yeah.
Caucus Leader Black.
Just a point of information, Cat's Cupboard staff has been notified that if somebody comes in and says, I have donations for citations, to send them to parking garage.
Yeah, and also if you're interested for graphics, like if you want to post on your, I know everyone's got like campaign accounts and whatnot, hit me up, email me, I can send you the files, you guys can post it, and kind of spread the word about it.
I have a question.
What's up?
Did you change the logo on the flyer?
I did not. I didn't design the flyer. Our folks at SDS did, and I already closed out that, so it's okay. It does its job. It does its job, so no worries.
Senator Griffith.
Did you tell the people who designed the logo of our feedback about it?
No. So if you would like to do that, you can go reach out to Student Design Services yourself. I put them to too much already, getting them to design that. So.
Are there any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Are there any further committee chairs that would like to give a report? Chair Lilly, do you have a report?
Yes, I do. So we tabled Bill 52 last week. This week. I wasn't there because I was sick then also. I cannot speak to why we tabled it, but we did. And then we had some more resignations, so there's now a seat open in the College of Business Administration. And then the last thing I've got is that next week we will be doing the expulsion reviews, and then if we have any, voting on those next Thursday.
Any questions? Senator Shirky, do you have a question?
Yeah. Is the committee chair allowed to provide some explanation on why they tabled Bill 52?
Are you asking me?
I suppose I am, because unless.
We'll defer to the vice chair who is there in his absence.
I chaired the committee that day we tabled it. We believe we were just flooding the channel with too much information by doing that every week. And we're pretty confident the senators can make that information available if someone's requesting minutes. Otherwise, if someone does request those and they're available, they're always allowed by COMA to receive those.
Are there any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Are there any further committee chairs that would like to give a report? Seeing none, are there any directors that would like to give a report? Oh, President Vogelmore.
Hello, everyone. I just have a couple things to go over really quickly. The first thing, mark your calendar. I gotta check the dates. I just went over it. Okay, March 4th at 6 p.m. Just make sure you have that on your calendar for the SGA banquet this year. Details to come, or ask Jack if you have any other questions about that. The other thing I want to share a little bit about is an update on the RFP process. If you remember me talking about this a little bit last semester, this was the proposal that students could submit to a proposal to enhance outdoor spaces on campus last semester. That was open the month of October, the application was, and then there's a student committee that reviewed all those proposals and selected proposals to move on to phase 2. We are currently in phase 2 still. Where I'm getting is once we narrow this group of proposals down a final time to where we have around 3 or 4, we'll have them present in Wildcat Chambers on March 13th at 6 p.m. So again, mark your calendars. It'll be the same time that Cabinet usually happens, so right before Senate. That's a Thursday, March 13th at 6 p.m. It'll probably be around 3 to 4 proposals that they'll come share with you all. There will be like a link or QR code that you can scan and share any feedback. There will be a limited time for questions, so you can ask any questions you have and submit feedback. And then the student committee that will select the final proposal will take all of those thoughts into consideration. So make sure you're here for those presentations. Any questions?
Yeah, that's my line. Are there any questions for the speaker? Vice President. Okay. Parliamentarian Blood.
When you presented the RFP process, I distinctly remember there being a timeline for Senate to kind of approve the final choice that was selected. What's kind of the timeline for that, given that March 13th is the
Mhm.
last meeting of this term?
Yes, so as far as the timeline goes there, unfortunately, it won't be introduced in this session. So it will be introduced on March 27th, yes. So the week after spring break, the first session, or the first Senate back in session, is when we'll introduce it. And hopefully special order and pass it. But we'll talk about that later. So, anything else?
Any further questions? Senator Glasscock.
You mentioned special ordering. Is there a specific reason why that would be necessary?
No, and that's not something that like I'm seriously saying we need to talk about right now. But that's just something that hopefully for timeline purposes, maybe we can get this moving faster, but that's not a conversation happening right now.
Senator Shirkey.
I guess maybe there's a more general question of, is there anything that we can do to speed the process along, and what is your idea for, an estimate on, when the process will be complete?
Great question. We're with you. We want this to happen as fast as possible because President Linton, especially, he has a timeline that he needs to meet as far as like this funding needs to be spent before a specific deadline by the end of the fiscal year, I believe. As far as the process up to like March 13th, there's nothing we can do to speed that part of the process up because we have to go through all of our like selections, and the proposals will be meeting with Casey Lauer and Ethan Erickson. Those are administrators, and so we can't do anything to speed it up to that process. The only thing Senate can do is, like I mentioned, potentially when we get there, when we introduce this piece of legislation, instead of taking 2 weeks to pass it, we could maybe take 1, but that's the only thing we can really do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Are there any further directors that would like to give a report? Elections Commissioner Kermer.
All right, so you're seeing the graphic for the student body president, vice president candidate debate / forum. It's taking place Thursday, February 20th, 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. We're doing it during the lunchtime hour to get the most attendance that we can. And we're currently locking down some partnerships with Wildcat 91.9 for that, and Student Creative Services, which is great. As of today, we have 44 out of 60 Senate seats that have been filed for, which is great, but that deadline's February 25th, so we have quite a bit of time still. So work to get your friends filed. That'd be fantastic. I have added a few more election trainings next week. There's 3 next week. We're looking at Tuesday, February 11th at 10:30 a.m. on Zoom. These are all on Zoom. Thursday, February 13th at 2:30 p.m. and then Friday, February 14th at 11:30 a.m. And there'll be more after this, so just give you guys some more options. And you can find those RSVP links on the elections website. Going back to this, I'm getting ready to send you guys a link to submit questions that we can ask our candidates. It'd be greatly appreciated if you guys could submit some.
Are there any questions for the speaker? Chair Koch.
I don't know if you know this, but what's the breakdown by college seats so far as how many have filed? If you don't have it, that's okay.
Give me 1 second. So we are looking at 4 for ag, 2 for architecture, 12 for arts and sciences, 8 for business, 2 for education, 6 for engineering, 5 for grad school, 1 for vet med, and 3 for health and human sciences.
Are there any further questions? Okay.
Also, if you guys could post this when it goes public here in a couple days, that'd be fantastic.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further directors that would like to give a report? Speaker Pro Tem Hesseltine.
Hi all. I know last week I told you that I would come back and let you know where the open forum event on April 17th with President Linton will be. And it's going to be in the Morris Family Multicultural Student Center, and the Office of the President will be providing food, so please come. I'll get some graphics out here soon, but just so you have a location.
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you. Are there any further directors that would like to give a report? Okay, seeing none, we will go into final action on Bill 50, amendments to the KSUSA statutes regarding DEIB funding, referred favorably from the DEIB committee, 12 to 0. If the author will please come forward. Were there any changes in committee?
Yes, there were.
If you could please state them.
So first change would be the inclusion of the section F, new section F and new section G, basically, in which we include the section of mementos. This way we can basically, the committee decided to separate personal gifts and include the new memento section. That way we not include the gift part, basically just separating both terms. And we struck out the wages as well. Those are the main changes in the bill.
Okay, yeah, first rights to debate.
Yeah, okay. So I do believe these changes are very good, since some of the concerns that were brought when the bill was firstly introduced were mainly corrected, mainly with the personal gifts part. By separating this section, what the committee basically did is not only give it a more formal definition, which I disagree with some people in saying that it does create some interpretation, although the two sections are separate, but also given a legal, like a maximum cap, we're also able to avoid it being considered a big enough gift for it to get between any tax laws, which we investigated as well.
Okay, thank you. Seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there debate in the negative? Senator Shirkey.
I will bring 3 arguments against Bill 50 covering finances, the balance of power, and the opportunities lost under this bill. Argument 1, finances. The bill pushes future governments to spend more. If food and take-home objects are funded, DEIB total requests will increase over the next few years. This will heavily skew the next SSF review of DEIB, since demand will appear higher than it should. This puts SSF in a very difficult position, encouraging them to provide more funding to DEIB, even if it may go against other factors at the time. The fundamental problem with the legislation is that by arbitrarily placing or removing statutory funding restrictions, we use policies to control economic systems instead of letting economic realities dictate rational policies. We do not want the trailer to pull the truck. SSF fee decisions and university funding constraints should be what defines the material DEIB can fund, not the other way around. Argument 2, balance of power. Any bill to empower the DEIB committee's authority without commensurate support of SAC creates an unreasonable discrepancy in service for our constituents. We have a duty to advocate for marginalized groups and support diverse communities. And we also have a duty not to restrict access to funding based on the character of organizations or their members. It can be tempting, since DEIB clients are often discriminated against in ways that arbitrarily make their lives more difficult, to empower DEIB with more authority than SAC, but one does not fight fire with fire. Providing powers arbitrarily to certain committees over their counterparts does not serve our people, no matter what problem it solves, without support for food and take-home objects in the SAC as well as DEIB. The bill creates a harmful gap in the ways our people receive support. Groups that add value to campus, to the general public, and not just DEIB clients, will be at a disadvantage compared to DEIB clients if this bill passes. That double standard means the bill should not pass. Only by lifting up all our people can we truly lead in a just and fair way. This bill does not do that. Arguments 3, opportunities lost. It is a fact that SGA is not made of money. It is also a fact that college is expensive. When these are taken together, we see why previous student governments have, for instance, not raised student fees in some years, even though that reduces the quality of SGA services. It is an economic question, and like all such questions, it's answered by comparing harms to benefits and finding the best option. Each dollar DEIB allocates to food and take-home objects is a dollar they cannot put to use later. The committee uses its funding in the status quo, and its clients add value to the campus through cultural events, political dialogue, and more. If we were to allow food and take-home objects to be funded, DEIB would invariably use some of their resources on that. But no amount of free pizza will ever add as much value to our people as providing them with skills, training, employment, or even cultural enrichment. The mission of DEIB is only harmed by passing this bill, as the new obligations will hold back the committee from its noble purpose. At the end of the day, the decision is not easy. It is tempting to hear the skilled leaders in the DEIB committee, the students who support DEI policies and want to do more. I believe that our university should do more to support marginalized groups, protect the vulnerable, and empower diverse communities at K-State. At a time when our nation is turning away from DEIB, we have a responsibility to do what is right for K-State. Not for DC, not for Topeka, for K-State. That's why I'm asking you not to do what is easy, but to do what is right. Vote against this legislation. Our first duty is to help Wildcats gain their future through sound fiscal policies. Vote for that future. Vote down this bill.
Seeing as that was debate in the negative, is there debate in the positive? Chair Lee.
All right, this is going to be less of a debate, but more kind of explaining the context behind this bill and why it was written. I think, for one, the food part, I know previous speakers have mentioned about funding food. We've been funding food for the previous year, and I think that's important to note. But it's not like we're funding Chipotle, Panda Express, and Pizza Hut. We've been funding culturally relevant foods, and that's explicitly stated in our statutes. And even with the food addition in last year's statutes, funding requests have not increased primarily for food. I believe that my committee has been very fiscally responsible in our food allocations, funding more for the event rather than the food. And I think it's also important to note that the changes in the food part is mainly for water. Our committee has faced a historical precedent of not funding water. Right? We're not gonna fill solo cups with sink and tap water for an event for 300 people. Some of the requests need water for their events anyways, and so this was just a way for us to be able to break that precedent and start funding that as well. For the mementos sections, to provide some more context on that as well, these aren't just like gifts. These aren't gifts that people are just taking home for anything. They add a cultural context. For one example, we had a funding request from the Muslim Student Association that wanted to, as part of their event, they're talking about their religion, is that they wanted to give attendees copies of the Quran to take home as well. And so that was kind of the primary driver for this, was so that that group could be able to do that. Similar to the Indian Student Association's movie film night, bringing home picture cards as well. And so I think it's also super key that I don't know if raise of hands of people in the room, how many of you guys have been to an event that's been funded by DPF? Right. So I think there's some sort of false notion here of what type of events that we fund and where our money is going towards when you haven't shown up for those events in the first place. And so I really encourage you guys to attend those events and support our students because at the end of the day, this funding is super important. And this legislation just makes it easier for our committee to do our job in being able to support student dollars, going back to students anyways, right? Where we talk about where this money is going towards. It's not going towards an endless pit. It's going towards other student organizations and other students that you may not traditionally be around as much. So yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Seeing as that it was debate in the positive, is there debate in the negative? Parliamentarian blood.
I'm gonna go ahead and go. I wanted to address a few points because, well, I think in general this is brought on as a good premise. I don't support it at all. right now. One, on the food side, if the committee wanted to fund water, they would have written fund water, not open it up even more broadly for a bunch of other cases for food. They could have limited it and instead made it much more broad, which I think is a bit disingenuous to say, well, we really just want to fund water in general. Oh, but actually we're going to open it up for any type of food that serves a potential purpose of the event, aka can we, again, to a previous speaker's point, could we order a bunch of pizzas to get people to show up to our event? Not saying that's what these groups do at the event, but it's what's now written and allowed under that section. And I think an interesting point to bring up there is that a smaller pool of money for on-campus events that we are able to fund that also has to go through Senate approval, unlike this funding, does not allow food to be funded, both for travel and for on-campus events. And so I think it's a bit disingenuous, again, for our body to change the rules for a specific group of people when we're not going to change them holistically across the board for all organizations. Finally, on the mementos side of thing, I get it. I think there's definitely some value in being able to leave with a physical item, but I don't know how much that fully contributes to the cultural learning experience that occurs at a specific event. And I don't understand why we, as student government with student dollars, have to be the ones funding these things. We're not supposed to fund every single item and occurrence and event and activity that occurs at every single event. We're there to help additionally supplement. And if we're continually required to fully support every single thing that's going on, we're going to run out of money, or we're going to greatly increase fees on students. And so I think for those things, this is really valuable. And then I just want to reiterate one point that's really, really important, because as we're continuing to expand the rules of what this committee is allowed to fund, it's important to note that there's very little oversight on the year-to-year process of where that money goes. Sure, the committee has to report on the events that they fund, but unlike every other student organization, money that comes out of the Diversity Programming Fund does not have to be approved by Student Senate. And so if there's something that comes up that the committee feels should be funded, of which there are many members of that committee that are not elected and serve on this body, by the way, then there's no recourse for Student Senate to voice their opinion and voice the opinion of the student body to overturn that. And so I would be very wary and very cautious of expanding the rules of what we can fund and what this committee is allowed to fund, especially with the lack of oversight and without changing the rules for the Student Allocations Committee at the same time.
Seeing as that was debate in the negative, is there debate in the positive? Caucus Leader Black.
Yeah, I think the previous speaker, I think all the speakers thus far have brought up really great points that are all very true. The one thing that I wanted to come up here and point out was just speaking of a member of a different committee for SSF. I think about how we use our dollars and how these committee meetings actually occur. And while this does broaden like the scope of what the DEIB committee can use their funding on, there still is a set dollar amount that they have to spend. And if they were truly, having those good discussions and stuff like that, which I'm sure they are, then they're thinking about how they can maximize their dollars and stuff like that. So yes, in this, they could, in theory, buy 60 pizzas and blow their entire budget for the first event that comes by. But that's not the conversations that happen within these meetings. So that's not necessarily how we're going to go with this. But I do understand the concerns that they could, in theory, do this if they had an unlimited budget, which they do not.
Seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there debate in the negative? Seeing none, is there a debate in the positive? Senator Griffith.
All right, I would like to start out by addressing a point that speakers in the negative have consistently brought up, and that is, why are we changing this and not making similar changes to the allocations committee, to SAC? We are not the allocations committee. I think that something like this, there is an argument to be made for it to be a universal change. But you want to know what's stopping SAC from making the same changes or similar changes to their funding? Nothing. Nothing is stopping SAC from deciding to make the same changes that we at DEIB are. So I don't think that that argument is relevant. But I think that for another reason is that, especially with the section on mementos, I think that is a very important change that should go through. The idea behind it is that these are takeaways, items that are provided to these students who attend the event, because with those, if you take one of those, you are going to continue, whenever you see it, whenever you hold it, you are going to continue to remember this event. You are going to continue to remember the cultural effect this event had on you. This little item is going to continue to remind you of that culture, and in these trying times, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that these are good changes that the committee has debated for many weeks on and adopted this version, which I think is the best version, and I think that we should go forward and approve this because I think it is a good thing.
Seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there a debate in the negative? Senator Kermer.
I just want to preface by saying I am a full supporter of DEIB and the work that goes on there. But I'm thinking about how I am a member that sits on student allocations and how we have a very constrained budget and we're having to pull money out of reserves year after year. And if we're getting to the point that we're going to write and change rules to start funding mementos, and if DEIB has that much money to be able to fund that, then we possibly need to start looking at shifting more money over to SAC to start funding more student organizations. So I will be voting no on this.
Seeing as that was debate in the negative, is there debate in the positive? Chair
Point of information.
Oh, yes.
Is DEIB also pulling out of reserves for their events, or DPF?
They have the last 2 years. They have not so far this year. With that, is there any further speeches in the positive? Senator Alvarez.
Always makes me laugh when I have to pull it all the way down. Okay, I'm just gonna reiterate some things that we've been debating today. I'm hearing a lot of good points, and I know we probably should have been a little clearer in some of the ways that we were addressing some of the issues here and some of the verbiage here. So I just want to say the reason why we created the mementos section was because we wanted to differentiate it from the gifts in the first place. So by creating mementos, we're allowing other MSOs or other organizations, it's not limited to MSOs, but people who are seeking DPF funding, to provide something for their events. It was inspired by the Qurans because I thought it was just a really good idea that they wanted to kind of educate people and give them that little piece of education so that they can continue to learn about their culture and their religion. As someone who is multicultural, I think it's important to hand out things like that and get to know. If I gave you the story of the Llorona or the myth or something, and it's oh look, here's my culture, here's my thing, here's what I like to do, here's what I study, here's what, it's a lot of those things are very important to us. And so to be able to have the chance to give one out is just a really good idea. Also, I just want to address that we wouldn't be changing any of the numbers for the budget. That's all up to, what people decide outside of us. We don't have any control over that. We would just be increasing the, how do I say this? We would just be allowing for this to happen, opening up that scope. It's not necessarily oh, we want more money, we want to waste more money. It's more this is a better use of the money that we already have. We have a lot of money and we can use it this way, or we just let it go to waste. So this is something that we want to do to make sure that we're continuing to educate, especially in these times, and to continue to allow others to throw these kinds of these other organizations to throw these kinds of events. And then Finally, with the universal purpose, I just want to outline, like in food, we specifically stated basic universal purpose for a reason. We didn't want it necessarily to be like, oh, pizza, oh, we're funding Qdoba. Like, we've shut down other organizations that have asked for Qdoba and Panda because those aren't culturally significant. We're talking water. We're talking like things that serve a basic universal purpose, which is why we put it in there. If we would have put water, we would have been limited to water. Another problem would have come up. We would have done this all over again. That's why we put basic universal purpose, so that we can ensure that all of the groups are getting what they need for their event. And we're not over here like, yeah, no, we're not handing out pizza, guys. This is basic universal purpose, not all foods allowed. So yeah, those are just the 3 things that I wanted to make sure that we were clear. Hopefully that was good and understandable. So sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there any debate in the negative? Senator Owen.
1 second. Never mind.
Oh.
All right, so this is my first time up here, so bear with me. My issue isn't with the food. My issue is with mementos. I have 2 points of concern on this. First, the way that it currently is, it is without providing funding for mementos. It is providing a forcing function for the organizations to interact with their community to try to get donations for these kinds of events. I've been part of organizations that have done that, gotten donations for mementos for stuff that happens. It helps with community building and stuff like that. Second point on that is if this bill does go forward, I kind of agree with, if it goes forward, the $20 per item max is good. However, there's no cap. There's not a cap saying $20 max per item, maximum of say $100 or maximum of $50. There's no maximum on that. So what is to limit an organization to take their entire budget? Say they get $3,000, take their entire budget and just spend it all on a mementos. They only hand out a few at their event, and now they're just sitting there with this stuff on the shelf collecting dust, and it's wasted money at this point. Thank you.
Seeing as that was debate in the negative, is there debate in the positive? Senator Glasscock.
Yeah, I just want to make a few points as someone who has been on SAC before and is now on SSF, looking at both kind of the individual committees that are drawing from SSF dollars and then the full SSF committee, kind of that larger pool of money. Every single committee that works with money in SGA has really strong arguments within their committees, right? They're working with the money that they are given, and each dollar amount, each hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars is really scrutinized. If you go to literally any committee that's looking at this money, they're not throwing away any of it because we're kind of in this mindset that is very COVID affected right now, where we're kind of set by this very specific set of money from each student that's not going up by a lot year by year. And so when I read this as someone who's been on these committees, I read this as very specific carve-outs that don't provide a lot of leeway that the current language doesn't already give, especially in a committee like DIB, where a lot of it is not having SGA oversight. In theory, you could have readings of things that may not be approved of by some SGA members, but a lot of this is like, hey, we have this very specific situation where people are wanting water or like this specific educational value that's being created, and we want to make sure that that is good in the SGA statutes. And for me, that doesn't feel like it bloats the budget a lot. It doesn't feel like it's inconsistent with any other parts of the rulings, or that it's going to cause student services to have to require more. It's just a way so that the committee can work with their money and give the best value to the students possible. So.
Seeing as that was a debate in the positive, is there any debate in the negative? Chair Lilly.
Okay. So if I, representing the wind power team, went to SAC and said, hey, we really need more money because we need to hand out mementos, they would not give me more money. I don't think it's appropriate to allow other groups to do that in order to hand them more money. I think that the bill is, excuse me, relatively vaguely worded and definitely needs some guardrails on it before it should get passed. Excuse me. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the negative, is there debate in the positive? Cockstetter Black.
I move for previous question.
Second.
Is there an objection? Okay, seeing none, we will move into previous question and take a vote, roll call vote on Bill 50. If you'll take that away, Speaker Pro Tem Hesselstein.
Alvarez,
Yes.
Bailey,
No.
Blood,
No.
Black,
Pass.
Brugan, Byers,
No.
Casement,
Yes, by proxy.
Koch,
Pass.
Cox, Ediger,
Pass.
Erickson,
No.
George, okay, Giefer,
No.
Pass.
okay, gotcha. Glanville,
Yes.
Glasscock,
Yes.
Griffith,
Yes.
Hassan Shakib, Hoffman,
Yes, by proxy.
Hannah is not here, sorry. Holmes,
Yes.
Holzmeister, Islam, Jacobson, Jonak,
No.
Carton,
Pass.
Keen,
Pass.
Kidd,
No by proxy.
Kermer,
No.
Kramer,
Yes, by proxy.
Lee,
Yes.
Lilly,
No.
McCulloch,
No.
Maltz,
No.
Morris,
No.
Nagai Velazquez,
Pass.
Otto,
Yes.
Palenko,
Yes.
Prey,
Abstain.
Robbie,
Yes.
Rafferty,
Abstain.
Richenberg,
Yes.
Ramirez,
Yes.
Shasavari,
Pass.
Shirky,
No.
Sides,
Yes by proxy.
Stewart,
Yes, by proxy.
Strunk,
No.
Sushanik,
Pass.
Uphouse,
No.
Zacco.
No.
Okay. Black,
Yes.
Koch,
No.
Ediger,
No.
George,
Senator George, you can't pass twice. You have to record a vote.
No.
Is no your vote, Senator George?
Yes, no.
Okay, excellent.
Carton,
Abstain.
Keen,
No.
Nagai Velazquez,
Oh, no.
okay. Shasavari,
Yes.
Sushanik,
Yes.
okay.
Senator Owen,
I was not
sorry.
called.
I Oh. Oh, I know why I didn't call you. Yes or no?
No.
Okay, cool. That will pass 19 to 22 to 3.
Huh? What?
Oh, sorry. I had it in my head that it needed 19. Sorry, that will fail 19 to 22 to 3.
Okay, with that, we will now go into final action on Bill 242553, disbursement of the reserve for contingencies balance. Referred favorably from SAC 6-0. If the author will please come forward. Were there any changes in committee?
Yes, there were. They were purely grammatical, though, and spelling.
Okay, are you first starts to debate?
All right, guys. Well, pretty simple. We have a lot of requests, and we are running out of money. Actually, we've technically requested over our budget already, so we definitely need this money to keep functioning. That's it. Oh, what do you mean?
No question.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there any debate in the negative? Senator Giefer.
So I'm in SAC, so we've heard a lot the idea that it's first come, first serve. Once it's gone, it's gone. I think we should hold true to that and do the prudent thing and not pull from reserves when we're already out of money.
Seeing as that was debate in the negative, is there debate in the positive? Chair.
Yeah, so basically this is something that is expressly written in our statutes and gives us every right to do every year. So it's just $10,000. That's kind of, at this point, an expected part of SAC's budget because of our budget is so small already.
Seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there any debate in the negative? Seeing none, is there any debate in the positive? Seeing none, is there any further debate at all? Okay, seeing none, we will now go into a roll call vote on Bill 53.
Okay. Alvarez?
Yes.
Bailey?
No.
Black?
Yes.
Blood?
Yes.
Fulton? Brugan? Byers?
Yes.
Casement? Koch?
Yes.
Cox? Ediger?
Yes.
Erickson?
Pass.
George?
Yes.
Giefer?
No.
Glanville?
Yes.
Glasscock?
Yes.
Griffith?
Abstention.
Hassan Shakib? Hoffman?
Yes, by proxy.
Holmes?
Yes.
Holzmeister? Jacobson?
Yes, by proxy.
Jonak?
Yes.
Carton?
Abstain.
Keen?
Yes.
Kidd?
Yes, by proxy.
Kermer?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes, by proxy.
Lee?
Yeah.
Lilly?
Yes.
McCulloch?
Yes.
Moltz?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Nagai Velasquez?
Yes.
Otto?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes.
Palenko?
Yes.
Prey? Robbie?
Yes.
Rafferty? Richenberg?
Yes.
Ramirez?
Yes.
Jasavari?
Yes.
Shirky?
Yes.
Sides?
Yes, by proxy.
Stewart?
Yes, by proxy.
Strunk,
Yes.
Sushanik,
Yes.
Uphouse,
Yes.
Zacco.
Yes.
Alrighty. I don't think we had any passes, and that will pass 37 to 2 to 3.
Okay, excellent. With that, since we've exhausted final action, we will now go into the introduction of the allocations. The first is Bill 54, FY25 student allocation to the K-State Early Music Society. They requested $800 and were recommended $800. The next is Bill 55, the student allocation to Kappa, Kappa Psi, Tau Beta Sigma. They requested $4,500 and were recommended $3,500. Bill 56 is FY25 allocation to On the Spot Improv. They requested $4,750 and were recommended $3,000. Bill 57 is FY25 allocation to the Pre-Veterinary Medicine Club. They requested $800 and were recommended $800. Bill 58 is the FY student allocation to Resident Acapella. They requested $5,700 and recommended $3,100. Is there a motion to consider the allocations? Senator Shirkey.
I move to consider the allocation.
Is there a second?
Second.
The allocations will stand considered. With that, we will now go into the introduction of legislation. The first is Resolution 59, resolution to implement micromobility infrastructure and safety regulations across Kansas State University. Is there a motion to consider Bill 59? Senator Glasscock.
I move to consider Resolution 59?
That's right.
Second.
If the author will please come forward.
Okay, Resolution 242559, resolution to implement micromobility infrastructure and safety regulations across Kansas State University. Authors Benjamin Carton, sponsors Jacob Hoffman, Andrew Lee. Whereas for this resolution, the term micromobility vehicle shall include the following: bikes, e-bikes, scooters, e-scooters, skateboards, e-skateboards, longboards, e-longboards, and one-wheels. Whereas there are many ways people get around in our world today, but those ways may not be supported at Kansas State University. Various people at KSU like to travel through campus on micromobility vehicles to get to their destination quicker and easier. Whereas several of the sidewalks and corridors at KSU are not wide enough to allow safe access for pedestrians and micromobility vehicles. Whereas low visibility corners, sharp turns, and windy sidewalks and corridors also prove to be a safety hazard for pedestrians and micromobility vehicles. Whereas former and current parking stations for micromobility vehicles have been both a hazard in areas and lacking in others. Whereas with these hazards, it has been hard to support and promote usage of these vehicles, and whereas many students have expressed interest in implementing infrastructure and safety regulations that support micromobility vehicles for more accessible and safe usage on KSU campus. Be it resolved, Section 1. Kansas State University Students Governing Association strongly encourages Kansas State University to implement these ideas to support micromobility. A, paint bike paths along Martin Luther King Jr. Drive and Mid-Campus Drive walking corridors. B, implement embedded bollards at the entrances of MLK Drive and MC Drive walking corridors. C, implement yield signs at corners with low visibility. 1, sidewalk between the power plant and Seton Rainier Hall. 2, sidewalk that intersects MLK Drive walking corridor and runs along the south side of Ackert-Chalmers Hall and Cardwell Hall. 3, entrance to the corridor between Ward Hall and the Chiller Plant 1 building. D, have the Council of Parking Operations Micromobility Subcommittee identify sidewalks and corridors where the use of micromobility vehicles will be discouraged. E, advise against micromobility usage up or down the hill between Waters Hall and Willard Hall. F, with the implementation of VO e-bikes and e-scooters at KSU, installing parking zones for them in these parking lots. 1A17, 2A28, 3B2, 4B3, 5B17, 6D1. G, implement bike racks with ground surfacing, northeast side of the KSU Student Union. 2, south side of Ackert-Chalmers Hall. 3, southeast corner of Cardwell Hall. And 4, southeast corner of Hale Library, east of the Sunflower entrance. H, reduce the number of bike racks, east side of Seton Rainier Hall to west side of Cardwell Hall's main entrance. And I, switch the orientation of bike racks. East side of Dickens Hall, east side of Willard Hall, north side of the College of Business building. 4, Seton Rainier Hall's west wing's northwest entrance, and 5, Seton Rainier Hall's west wing's southwest entrance. Section 2. Upon the passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to the Director of Space Management, Heather Mills, Director of Parking Services, Adrian Tucker, Assistant Vice President of Planning, Design, and Construction, Lisa Johnson, Assistant Vice President of Operations and Infrastructure, Chris Salmon, Associate Vice President of the Division of Facilities, Casey Lauer, Vice President of Administration and Finance, Ethan Erickson, Provost and Executive Vice President, Dr. Jesse Perez Mendez, and University President, Dr. Richard H. Linton.
With that, are there any questions or corrections, Chair Koch?
I have a correction. Jacob Hoffman is spelled with one F, not two.
Are there any further questions or corrections, Senator Glasscock?
So you mentioned the Council of Parking Operations Micro-Mobility Subcommittee. Is that something that currently exists?
Yes.
Is all of this kind of from that subcommittee and it's kind of looking for student support for that? Or is it just kind of?
Great question. It's more or less of an idea getting presented to them, seeing what they think, and then they can take on what they believe.
So is this subcommittee something that exists?
Yes, it is.
Chair Edgar?
I might have just missed this, but with what money are you planning to do? Or I mean, just suggestions.
That was one of the biggest questions I kept getting asked when I had asked for sponsors. I understand. It is left vague for this very specific reason. This is something that is not going to be done in 6 months, 2 weeks. It is going to take 2 to 3 years. And a lot of this stuff will take setting up a fund on the university level to implement this. So the funds to get it done will be a long time coming. But these are ideas to work with into the future.
Caucus Leader Moltz.
Have you had conversations with the subcommittee at all regarding this legislation?
Yes.
How did those go?
Pretty receptive. They wanted to see kind of how students felt.
Senator Glanville.
So with the supposed implementation of like yield signs and saying that students can't ride their bikes here, there, or their micro mobility pieces, who do you envision enforcing this on campus? Do you envision like a crossing guard or?
I think that would be kind of funny. More serious note, because of the state's lack of regulation and definition of micromobility vehicles, there will be no enforcement until a state policy is set forth with it. With the implement of yield signs is kind of one of those things is as drivers, you'll see it and you'll automatically think, especially the amount of times I'm pretty sure all of us have had to yield or quote unquote yield coming off an off ramp onto heavy traffic. With those, it's more or less just to keep people mindful because I have seen people almost hit by gators, semis driving through there, and people zipping around that corner with their bikes and other micromobility vehicles.
Chair Koch.
With implementing this infrastructure and encouraging people to use micromobility vehicles, are you at all concerned about the pedestrian safety as micromobility becomes more popular?
Great question. That is why some of these are trying to regulate discouragement of some of our smaller sidewalks. Back in a couple of years ago, or maybe several years ago now, they used to have triangle pieces painted on the sidewalks where they say, please dismount. Doing something similar would be like, hey, just because this is such a narrow path, let's try to make it safe for both of us as pedestrians and micromobility users to be able to access the space and use it. And mostly just hoping for good neighbors. And if something does continuously go wrong, something else will come along to fix it.
Senator Kermer.
You mentioned that it's kind of vague, but I would offer, I would say that it's not vague at all. Do you think that comes across wrong in the light and view of facilities to pass this kind of legislation?
Coming from me, and this is more or less a personal view, having worked for facilities and communicated with it won't be, of course, it won't be opened with or congratulated with open arms, but it's going to be like, hey, thanks for the idea. Let us sit down and look at this. This is not saying this is a mandate you must do. This is specifically with line 37 is to implement these ideas to support micromobility.
Are there any further questions or corrections for the author? Okay, seeing none, we will now move on to the introduction of Resolution 242560, a recommendation to install security cameras for bike racks bike racks outside dorms. There we go. Is there a motion to consider? Chair Koch.
I move to consider Resolution 60.
Second.
Is there an objection? If the author will please come forward.
Howdy, y'all. I hope you like talking about bikes more. Whereas, as of November 2022, 2024, 49 bikes have been reported stolen on campus, which is a roughly 19% increase from 2023. Whereas the number of bikes that have been stolen is likely more than reported due to the fact that 60 to 70% of thefts have gone unreported. Whereas the issue of bike theft has caused Kansas State University Police Department to hire a bike safety officer. Whereas the average bike costs between $500 to $750, which could be detrimental considering the thousands of dollars students pay to go to Kansas State University. Whereas there are currently no cameras that monitor the bike racks outside of student dorms, where majority of bikes are located. Be it resolved that Section 1, the Kansas State University The Kansas State University Student Government Association recommends that Kansas State University install cameras at all bike racks outside of student dorms. Section 2, upon this passage by the Student Senate and signature of the student body president, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to Associate Director of Student Living, Nick Lander, Associate Vice President of Community Building, Dr. Derek Jackson, Vice President of Academic Success and Student Affairs, Dean of Students, Dr. Thomas Lane, and University President, Dr. Richard H. Lennon.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author, Senator Giefer?
Do you have any numbers on stolen bikes that were properly locked?
I do not.
Senator Griffith?
This resolution, if enacted, would drastically increase the number of cameras around campus. Are you comfortable with that increase of surveillance, with that increase of surveillance on students?
Yes.
Chair Lee.
I was just wondering, Ben, did you have you had conversations with like KSUPD about any of this by any chance?
My only conversation was me obtaining the information about bike thefts. I did reach out to them to see if I can get that number.
Because I just know, maybe I'm wrong, but sometimes sometimes they have those little carts with the cameras on them that go around like in front of the dorms and stuff. Sometimes I'm just curious.
Did you ask another question?
Nope, I don't think so. I think I was just talking out my butt.
Okay, Senator Griffith.
Where do you get the numbers for unreported bike thefts?
That comes from the Department of Justice Statistics.
Yeah, I can ask another one.
Do you have any idea how such information is gathered in the first place?
I do not.
Senator Shirkey.
I have two minor language corrections and then a question. So line 22, bikes, plural, and line 33 with a period. My question is, very simple. How does the resolution that you proposed, if this policy were actually enacted, are you confident that it would actually be able to address the issue? Are you confident that KSUPD has the resources to follow up on and adequately utilize all this evidence that we generate from cameras and turn that into a more safe environment?
I believe so. It's a story. My bike got stolen last year, and when I reported to the police, they seemed very helpful in wanting to help, but they really couldn't because the closest camera was to where my bike rack was across the street. So they have no visibility on my bike. So even if they, sorry, it would be, trying to find the right word for it. My apologies. I think it would be a static improvement if there was one at the bike racks.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions or corrections for the author? I can't read that.
Bailey.
Senator Bailey.
I was just curious about if this policy was enacted, where the funding would come from and what the timeline might look like if we were to build these campuses, how long that might take.
That's a very good question. I'm hoping for the university to create it, but if not, I will go and find funding wherever I can.
Senator Carton.
Point of information, Joseph Lee has had his hand raised on Zoom.
Chair Lilly.
I just found out that someone asked the question I was going to ask. I just couldn't hear it.
Senator Shirkey.
So you might have covered this when you introduced the resolution. If so, my apologies. Obviously, as it stands, being a resolution, it's non-binding. And what are your plans to follow this up, right? Let's say we pass this. Now you can go to KSUPD and say, oh, look, the students want to do this. What's the plan from there?
Well, the plan is, for me, is to go and find funding. I don't care where it comes from. I will find it.
Thank you.
Senator Carton.
Love the idea of this piece. Biggest question is, do you have any of the statistical updates or statistical information about the bikes that are stolen that have been registered with KSUPD with the specific stickers and or all these students that put in their information and serial numbers, color of it, the size of the bike, all into the information to help PD maybe find it a bit easier?
No.
Senator Glanville, did you have a question?
Senator Carton just asked the question I was about to ask.
Okay, excellent. Are there any further questions or corrections for the author? Senator Giefer.
Do you have any ballpark idea on what that would cost to get cameras at every one of these places?
From the conversations I've already had, we're looking around 15K.
Senator Owen, do you have a question?
Yes. I don't know if it was covered in your introduction, but how many bike racks are we looking at trying to put cameras on?
Good question. I actually have the number. I need to go grab my phone. Yeah. Somewhere around 11 and 12.
Senator Zago, did you have a question earlier?
No other question got asked.
Okay. Does anybody else have a question or correction for the author? Okay, seeing none, thank you. With that, we will go into second open period. Are there any second open period speakers? Senator Shirkey.
Love to see people that aren't usually writing legislation. We got Daniel Blanco, we got Ben Richenberg, and we got Blaze, I think McCullough is how you pronounce his last name. He's in SAC, and he wrote an allocation for the first time. So, awesome. Keep writing bills, live, laugh, legislate.
Are there any further second open period speakers? I have one by way of Amy Lee. She would like me to inform all of you that if you are in a registered student group, you can receive Pepsi products from the Student Programs and Involvement Office. So, yeah. Are there any further second open period speakers? Okay, seeing none, we will go into reference of legislation. Bills 54 through 58 will be referred to the Student Allocations Committee, and bills 59 through 60 will be referred to the Strategic Oversight Committee. With that, we will go into Senate shoutouts.
Alrighty. Okay. Shout out to Free Pepsi. We should get some for our next meeting. Shout out to Levi slaying as a vice chair. Shout out to everyone thinking about how we are reasonably spending money. It is great to have those voices of where the money is coming from. Go Daniel, you ate king. Live, Laugh, Legislate needs to be the new SJ marketing campaign. Shout out to Brady Sweater. He'd be looking like Chris Evans in Knives Out. Keep writing bills. Shout out to spelling Jacob's name wrong when he's not here. Shout out to Ben for speaker. You have my vote and my loyalty. Someone said that Brian is looking real cute up there tonight. Shout out to Benji spelling Jacob's name the way it should be if Jacob knew how to spell his own name. Shout out to Ben just because he's Ben. Ben Richenberg. I don't care where it comes from. I will find it. Acquiring funding is not like a threat, and that's okay with me. Shout out to having time to talk in the group chat, but not time to be at Senate. Shout out to Ben, you've got some fans. Shout out to Ben being as cool as a cucumber up there at the mic. Go Ben, save those bikes. Shout out to me not having a bike, so I have never had a bike stolen. Public urination. Shout out to bikes, one of 2 conversation topics today. Shout out for Brandon being the GOAT tonight. Shout out to Sachs, tight leash on only mattering when it comes to diversity funding and not their own. Shout out to playing bingo in Benji's legislation. Shout out to can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning. Shout out to Sarah Barr, utter icon. Shout out to cars. Can't steal my bike if I drive a car. BS in our world. FAFO. Better watch your wallet. Ben's coming for your money. Shout out to Ben getting his steps in. Shout out to Benny Boy eating it up tonight. Shout out to SAC being the Law and Order Committee. Shout out to Ben Richenberg being a little cutie patootie. Shout out to the best bike boy this body has ever seen, in Ben We Trust. Rest in peace, Nick Saya. Shout out to oh gosh, someone just added one and completely took my space. Hold on. Okay. Shout out to tabling bills. We love power. Shout out to apologizing after debating, standing up and doing the right thing. Shout out to have we considered hiring Perry the Platypus to protect campus bikes? Blaze McCulloch, who learned how to write allocations in the last SAC meeting. Shout out Fake Patty's Day. Shout out to Captain Lilly for showing up even when he's sick in the med bay. Keep calm and heal up, soldier. Dismissed. Shout out to doing homework during Senate. Daniel Palenko wrote a solid piece of legislation and worked hard to give it the best odds of success. Shout out to my bike has never been stolen, because I'm just that good boy. Let's all say it. Ben ate the house down tonight. Shout out to Ben hunting down funding. Shout out to misspelling a sponsor's name, and K-State for crossing guards.
Okay, with that, we will now go into our second roll call.
Alvarez. Here. Bailey.
Here.
Black.
Here.
Blood.
Here.
Bolton. Brugan. Byers.
Here.
Case Koch.
Here.
Cox. Ediger. Erickson.
Here.
George.
Here.
Giefer.
Here.
Glanville.
Here.
Glasscock.
Here.
Griffith.
Still here.
Hassan Shakib. Holmes.
Here.
Holzmeister. Jonak.
Here.
Carton.
Here.
Keene.
Here.
Kermer.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Lilly.
Here.
McCulloch.
Here.
Maltz.
Here.
Morris.
Here.
Nagai Velasquez.
Here.
Otto.
Here.
Owen.
Here.
Philip. Sorry, ignore that one. Palenko.
Here.
Prey.
Here.
Robbie.
Here.
Rafferty.
Here.
Richenberg.
Here.
Ramirez.
Here.
Shahasavari.
Here.
Shirky.
Here.
Strunk.
Here.
Sushanik.
Here.
Uphouse.
Here.
Weaver. And Zacco.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Senator Shirkey.
I move to adjourn until the same time, same place next week.
Second.
Is there an objection? We stand adjourned.